It was interesting there. I thought Macky Sall was speaking less as the Senegalese leader and rather than he was as the leader of the African Union, highlighting issues that affect the whole continent, from food insecurity to terrorism.
Yes, I think that's totally correct. There was no mention of Senegal at all during that speech by Macky Sall. It was all about the African continent, the different African nations. And he made some pretty strong points. First of all, he has said that he favours changes to the United Nations Security Council. You know, there's been a big argument going on for years about whether an African country should have a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. There are 5 permanent members at the moment made up of the victors of the Second World War, and there are many calls that for an African country to be given that seat. So once again, a call from Macky Sall on behalf of the African Union for that to take place. He also said that the African Union and African nations should have a seat on the G20, the group of 20 industrialized nations of the world. And he's called for Africa to be seen not as a place where there are problems, but Africa as a continent of solutions. He said that Africa had large amounts of land, large amounts of manpower, large amounts of natural resources, and all of those brought together could help the world find a way out of many of its very colossal problems that it has to try to sort out right now. He said that all the governments in Africa were, as he coined it, on the job trying to make it the Africa of solutions, favouring multilateral systems, and Africa should less be seen as being the country that is causing problems, as I was saying. It's been buffered enough. That was another sentence that he said. So a big call for Africa to be taken into consideration, but underlining the fact that the African Union and the voice of Macky Sall is also criticising the war in Ukraine as a great threat to the stability of the world.
And he did several times mention the word multilateralism, Philip. That is another issue that we expect the French President, Emmanuel Macron, to touch on when he speaks later on today.
I think that will be echoed by Emmanuel Macron during his speech a little bit later on today. We've only had 2 speeches so far. Jair Bolsonaro, the Brazilian president who spoke just before Macky Sall, he was preceded, of course, by the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. But there is a feeling, I think, within the UN that there are divides, the North-South divide, because the African Union and African countries in particular feel that the North is more obsessed at the moment with the Ukraine war. They are suffering as a result of the Ukraine war. We've all talked about the problem of grain shipments from Ukraine to African nations, particularly northern African nations that are risking suffering from food, lack of food and starvation, and the climate change, which has not been dealt with properly in Africa, which isn't helping that situation with drought in East Africa and elsewhere. And that is why they say that they need more resources, they need more help, because they are suffering as a result of the war in Ukraine, and that is leading to a split between the North and the South as members of the United Nations.
Philip Turle, for now, thanks very much. Indeed, we'll be bringing you much more coverage from the United Nations throughout today and in the coming days as well.